Let's make this calendar together. This is a month calendar with some nice formatting on it where you can simply select any year that you want, any month that you want, and then it fills in the calendar below. I'll show you how to do the data validation. I'll show you how we coerce this into a month, and then I'll show you how we use the weekday function as well as some conditional formatting to create the pretty calendar that you see displayed here. All right, let's get started. The first thing we need is a month and a year, right? So it's pretty straightforward. I've got data validation. If you go to data validation, I've got that on this cell, and I've got the criteria being between 1900 and 2099. Now, you can change this to 2299 and 1700 for all you want. It'll do the same thing. So 1776, September, what a great month, right? And there we go. So for the drop-down list here, we do much the same thing. I'll edit this. It's opening up the sidebar for data validation rules. It's applied to this range, just that C2 cell. And the criteria is from a range. So you could just type in the values right here, but I've got from a range selected. And the range I've selected is where I've got the months stored, which is over here on another tab. That's just for housekeeping. It doesn't have to be over here. It can be anywhere. And you can type it in if you want, if you really wanted to. You could also name this, as I've done right here, by selecting the name box and typing in a word. So that's named month. Let's go back over here. Let's edit these up. Drop down from a range. And instead of selecting the cell range, let's just type in the word month, and you'll see that it pulls in those months. And then this is just bonus. You can change the color for each of these if you want it to be colored. All right, we select OK. And actually, before we do, go into advanced options, and you can reject the input if the data is invalid. So if somebody tries to type something in C2 that's not a month, then it'll just reject it. And bonus, don't do that. It'll show this message, whatever you want to type in there. So if I type in that, it pops up the warning. Okay, simple enough. There's our data validation. Now we need to pull this into this cell right here. The way we do that is we create a date with the date function, and then we grab the year, the month, and the day. And check this out. This is kind of weird looking, right? Because if I just type in C2 for the month September, it's going to give me an error. It's going to say, hey, this expects a number value, but September is text. So the way we get it to cooperate is creating a month out of C2, and we have to actually add 1 to it. Now, if you want to Google this, I'll leave a description or a link in the description to where I figured out how to do this. It's just a quirk that you have to do this to create that text into an actual month value, into September the 1st. And if we change this over to this type of date, you can see that, yes, that is actually holding the value September 1st. Now we've got that set up. Now we move down here to the calendar itself. And what we need to do here, I've got the numbers 1 through 7 printed on this row 4. The reason we have this is because, again, it has to do with these funky way dates work. I need to coerce that number into a weekday by using the weekday function. So the weekday of B4 is Sunday. And again, if you do this initially, I'll do it right over here, and you do the weekday of B4, it's just going to give you the number 1 again. But as you can see, if we change that number into a date, then it is actually holding the Sunday date. Now, at the end of this, we're just going to hide this by changing the font color or even hiding the row itself, because we don't need those numbers 1 through 7. We just need them for our functions, our formulas. I'm going to leave them visible for right now, though, so we know what we're doing. All right, let's change this to a month where we've got some lines that are blacked out here to where the first day of the month doesn't start until later in the week, because this is the tricky part. Now we've got some functions here on this first header row to hold the numbers of the month that are testing to see what the first day of the month is. So we're using an if statement, and we're saying, hey, if weekday of B3, And B3 is this February 1st value that we've grabbed at the very top. If that's equal to B4, which is the number 1 up here, which remember represents Sunday, then we're going to enter B3 into this cell. What that says is that if the 1st of February is a Sunday, then put the 1st of February date right in here. And let's find a month where that's the case. Going to be all the way down here, I guess. It was September, right? So September 1st is a Sunday. Therefore, we're putting September 1st in this cell. And it's formatted differently, but it's still September 1st. I've just got it formatted as the day, the number date with a leading 0. So that's all this is doing. It's testing to see for the first day of the month. Same thing in the next cell. We're testing to see if the 1st of September is a Monday. And if it's a Monday, then we're going to enter it into this cell. Then we have to test another thing. So we've got another if statement. So if it's not a Monday, how do I get rid of that? So if it's not a Monday, then we need to test if yesterday was the first day of the month. Because if yesterday was the first day, then I just need to add 1 to yesterday. But if both are not the case, then this needs to be blank also. And we'll go back to our February example. So as you can see, this was not the first day of the month. This was not the first day of the month. And so therefore we're leaving this blank. We're testing that again for Tuesday in the same way, for Wednesday. All of these are tested in the same way to see which of these days of the week is the first of this month. Once we've got that, then the formulas get a little bit easier. Then down here on the second row, all we got to do is start adding 1 to the dates. So we just take this date, because even if that was the first day of the month, that's still going to be in the month, and we're going to add 1 to it. And we're going to do that all the way across the board here. Each of these is just adding 1 to the subsequent, or to the previous day. For the next row, exactly the same. For the next row, exactly the same. But then these last 2 rows, this is where we have to start testing things again, because we could be at the end of the month. The only time that would be the case, where to go? 1, 2, 3, 4, is if February the 1st was on a Sunday. And you know what? We can find a year where that happened, right? 2016, 2015, boom. 2015, February. So when this occurs, when Sunday is the 1st of February and it's not a leap year, then these whole last 2 could be not part of the month, these whole last 2 rows. That doesn't happen often, but because that's a possibility, we have to start testing in this row. And what we're testing is this. If the text of H12 plus 1 in month format, and let me show you what that does. This is hard to grasp, perhaps. So we're going to coerce this into text. And if the text of this in month format is February, and these are just different ways to display different things, I just chose the full name. If that is equal to the text of B3 in month format, so we're testing if the next day after this is in the same month as our original month, then we need to go ahead and add 1 to it because it's in that month still. And if it's not, then we need to display nothing, which is what's happened here back in 2015 February. And that's what we do in each of these is we test 1 plus the previous day, whether or not that's still in the month that this calendar is displaying. And if it is, then we add 1 to it because it's in the month, so we need it to be part of it. And if it's not, we display a blank string. And that's how we get all the way down here to the end of the calendar. And that's how we do this. The only thing left is our conditional formatting on these cells of this row, because up to and including Friday, we could be blanking out all of these if the 1st of the month is on a Saturday. And the way we do that is to apply some conditional formatting, and we apply it to a range B6 through H7. And we could just do it through column G because column H will never be blacked out because it's got to be at least there that the first day falls. But at any rate, we apply it to this range, and then we use a custom formula, which is all the way at the bottom of our conditional formatting rules. And we say B6 equal to a blank string. So if B6, which is this cell right here, if that's a blank string, then that means it's not part of the month based on the if statement that we've entered in here. If that's the case, it is a blank string, then we just format it however we want to, right? We can put whatever color we want in there. I've chosen this blue for our example today. And the way that we apply this to the whole range is we lock in this $ here to the 6, and we leave the B without a $, and that way it will test C6, will test for these two cells, D6 for these two cells. That's how we lock part of the formula and drag it over. Now we do the same thing down here in our final range. I've done these two in two separate conditional formatting where I've got B14 through H15, which is this second to last row. Custom formula is B14 is equal to blank. And then I've done the same thing down here, B16 through H17, same thing. And that, my friends, is how we get this custom calendar that will dynamically change according to whatever date that you want to enter into it over here. Hey, if this was helpful, check this video out next. This is the one I did a while back where I create the same type of calendar, custom calendar, but you select 1 month at the top and then it's got a full year's worth below. So everything fills down in the same format. I've got a link to a free newsletter called Got Sheet that I publish weekly down in the description. Get on the list there. Got some good free stuff for you. A lot of knowledge, just passing on what I know. And I hope you have an awesome day.